this and other things. And do feel free to keep engaging. So are we at exactly 5? So with this, I would like to introduce you to our host, Dr. Madan Mohan Rao, Mixer, Your Story, Thai Charter member, CI Knowledge Management. Over to you, Madan.
Yeah. Hi, good evening everyone, and thanks, Vinay. It's Vinay from Mixer.good. We have a very interesting evening for you, a packed 2-hour evening. I don't think I need this mic here. So we have 5 startup pitches who are finalists or winners from the Matrix event. How many of you heard of the Matrix event last month? So Thai Bangalore's, one of Thai Bangalore's flagship events is called Matrix. It's an annual event which many years ago was called IoT Day, then it became IoT Next. Now it's Matrix. It's a great big amalgamation of converging technologies, AI, ML, 5G, and so on and so forth, Industry 4.0, etc. So from that event, 16 startups emerged as the winners and finalists of this whole tech space. So to tell you a bit more about Matrix, I want to invite Arvind to come up on stage now. Arvind ji, will you please come up? Arvind Tiwari is the chairman of the Matrix Forum, and he's going to tell a little bit about the story of Matrix and why we're all here today and how this whole event came about in terms of the startups and the process and so on. So he's an absolute veteran of this industry. A big round of applause, please, for Arvind. One we have the Matrix story.
All right. I think you can all hear me. That's a problem. Okay. So just a short bit. We started, it was called the IoT Forum. We started about 2014-15. And the idea was to do something different. Everybody was in SaaS, etc. This is hardware. It is tough. Most of my mentors, Dr. Sridhar Rao, all said it's tough. Hardware to India mein hoga nahi. But it worked out well. We quickly had about 700 startups engaged with us, and we ended up with around 3,000. We estimated a market of about 8 billion in 5 years. We are about 20, and certain things have done very well. Wearables, we are the worldwide leader in volumes. We're not being priced. We don't price like Apple, but anyway. And a lot of things have worked out. One of the learnings was that in the beginning, we had to spend a lot of effort on knowledge, like design for manufacturing, power management, how to test, how to do NOP for certification. But today, the world has changed a lot. And that's one of the things I want feedback from you also, how we need to adopt. There are 3 things that have happened. First, startups are the main buzzword. The government itself is investing. I'm amazed at some of the money that the government puts in quite fast. And disbursements are also happening faster. So the governments are there. Certain startups have achieved scale. I mean, while Dunzo and Flipkart, etc. may not be very cash flow positive is the current word, but they have generated huge employment. And third, we have also had a great deal of technology impact in terms of product market fit, etc. Samsara, you may not be aware, it's listed as IoT in the US. It's an IoT sensor company doing well. There are a lot of technology companies from India now listed abroad doing very great products. And India's brand as a technology provider is going. At the Matrix event, we held a talk on UPI. And UPI now 9 countries will adopt it, and it's a tremendous respect and faith and trust in the Indian system, and it's far superior. When FedNow, which is the US trying to do this, is being introduced in the US, just about 57 banks have gone. One of the leading comments, and I posted it on LinkedIn, was, to become as good as India, each bank has to spend millions, and it's tough. And plus you lose interest on the float. And then they had a very snide remark. Peer-to-peer payments are used for illicit activities. This is their way of defending their monopoly. So this has created a brand which is very good for you guys, for the startups. And we also have had a lot of development in things. One of the things we did early is to recognize that we need to help startups. And what we did at IoT Metrics, we focused on impact and innovation. And we focused at giving recognition to startups much before they become VC investable, because in those days there were not enough wealth and it was not that well. I'll just go through some names and we did a good job, and hopefully we will do a much better job with the current batch and all that. But just let me touch about some of the things. 2015, one of the companies we recognized was Cardiac Design, and they are doing very well, and they got funding. They're going to abroad also with many companies. We selected in 2016 Ultigreen, which is the hybrid, and Reliance has invested heavily. Tonbo Imaging, which you must realize is one of the world-class defense technology. SEDMAC, you may not be that aware, but they do this two-wheeler. They automate the timing cycle for two-wheelers, etc. And a lot of companies are adopting that. Ether, of course, which now is well recognized. In 2017, we did Sun Mobility, QNU Labs, which is quantum communication. Astrom and Bellatrix, both are on the space side, and both have now achieved quite a lot of success, ISC. We also did 103T, which is cardiac, PAX, which is air pollution, Deep 3, and now we have this. So the idea here is that there is a technology readiness curve, which we all understand, 3-4 product market fit. There is a commercial readiness product, which is where most VCs look at. The problem that is you guys now have is that there's a lot of noise and a lot of competition. So you can't afford to take 5 years. You have to speed up, which needs big checks, which is where our VC friends are also helping. The ticket sizes have gone up. So it is more urgent that you sharply focus and rocket boost and keep growing. I would be very happy to hear from you guys later what at IoT at Matrix Forum and TIE we could do different, but I would like to hand over to Madan from here. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the great Arvind Tiwari. Arvind is one of the fathers, the gurus of this industry. In fact, Arvind, I still have the backpack from when it was IoT Next, so it's a very personal touch as well. Anyway, we now have 5 startups followed by a panel of 5 investors and a domain expert, and then we're going to have an audience Q&A discussion from all of you. So we have 5 startups today. I want to invite the first one to come up now, Chinmay Hegde from Astricos.ai. Chinmay, please come up. Round of applause, please, for the first 5 startups. We have exactly 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Perfectly
so,
fine.
perfect.
So, good evening everybody. I'll just get started straight away. Right? So, Astricos AI. We are an AI infrastructure AI company which does collect the data from the various different infrastructural elements, such as in this room. If I take an example, we have cooling, we have power, we have lighting, right? We have environmental control, all these things, right? So the thing is, all these things are infrastructure data. And also occupancy is kind of a data. What is the the exhale of inhale of the oxygen or the air ultimately is the data, and the temperature is the data. All these things are data, right? So we collect this data from not just only the infrastructure such as rooms, it could be the scale of the city, it could be the scale of any kind of an infrastructure, right? So all these infrastructures, the data is collected and it is put into our respective AI and ML engine, and out of that, lot of things come out. As we move forward, we'll see. The problem statement is ultimately, number one is the infrastructure operation itself is the problem. So how to operate, where to start with, and what do I do, and who are all the stakeholders, and how to get all the stakeholders together on a single platform. That's the first and foremost collaborational issue. Now the collaborational issue leads into various different problems because everybody works in a silo. That's where the things start with. Because of that, we'll miss out on a lot of things, such as if any asset demands a maintenance or it requires a maintenance, that is totally ignored or neglected. So how do we do all these aspects, all these things in a proactive way? That is what the platform is going to address. So this statement, ultimately the problem statements are related to not only operation, it is also related to what comes out of the infrastructure and how this particular infrastructure puts the load onto the atmosphere in a larger scale, right? Which is a long-term sustainability impact. Now, there needs to be a tangibility. Everybody needs tangibility, right? Every infrastructure administrator needs tangibility in terms of the climatic goals, or it could be in terms of health indices, or it could be in terms of cost parameters. The solution what we have is a smart unified platform which collects all these things from the infrastructural elements, which could be operational elements, which could be the mechanical, electrical, plumbing related elements, or it could be from the the people who use the infrastructure, user angle or any other aspects. There are various systems. How? The IT, OT, IoT is the base of it, which generates different data. There lies a large gap between each of these systems. Plugging this particular gap is the first and foremost aspect. That is what the platform addresses. Our product is actually already patent published internationally under, the under WIPO. The patent is published, as well as the product's name is Smart Interop Analytical Platform. The name says it all, right? And which is accredited under the sustainable communities and cities, the certification, that is ISO 37120 and 122 too. We are already in various different infrastructures. Some of the segments, I hope I have this light out here, or the bottom part of the screen shows that which are all the infrastructures which we are addressing. That is, it could be the cities, it could be data centers, it could be manufacturing in execution systems, plants, or it could be the healthcare infrastructure where the sustainability and climatic goals are quite important, right? And it totally proactivates it brings in the proactiveness in terms of the way the people operate. That is the goal. How do we do the thing in a rapid way? Because it is, when I say all these things, people already must be thinking that this is a large thing, and the ramp up period could be quite maybe 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, whatever it is, right? You might have heard of smart cities. Where are the smart cities? The questions typically people ask everywhere, right? So we have a templatized approach where a standard template which goes further and implements from the day one, it handholds the administrators to take it forward and then derive on top of it multiple other integrations. We integrate entire systems. We do not do everything from the scratch. We do not reinvent the wheel. We integrate entire existing systems. Either it could be retrofitment or it could be the new implementation. The market scale is huge. The serviceable obtainable market itself is around 13 billion, which I have put it quite conservatively out here. So
You have 2 minutes left.
yes, perfectly fine. The revenue models which we are right now working on is, one is a perpetual licensing model with the AMC for the large infrastructures or the government customers or the BFSI kind of a customers who only look for, okay, I want to have this license as an asset in my book, right? So that's a way. We are there in large customers such as Central Vista Parliament Command Center is going to run on our platform. That's one of the very important implementation. And we already have success stories in around 4 or 5 smart cities across India, and now we are in Middle East and Southeast Asia too. Aramco is going to start a project with us right now, implementation for around 11 command centers. And there is the NEOM, Saudi NEOM city you might have come across, even that is going to be on our platform. And SaaS, this is MSMEs and business parks will run on a SaaS model because the particular templatization is on that. And these are our partners who are actually act like market enablers for us, who do our sales in simple, right? So all these global brands who do our sales, so far we are getting into direct sales effective from this year. So of course this is about our recognitions and wherever we have implemented, especially we are, the Financial Times and India, the Economic Times recognized company, Asia Pacific level as well as India level, both. Moving forward, this is what is our current, we are a scaling startup. Of course, scaling startups have scaling challenges, no doubts about it. A lot of ideas because you meet a lot of customers, lot of market leaders and everybody. They put a lot of ideas across, and choosing the things and filtering the things and focusing on what you want to do is the challenge. So we are looking forward to mentorship from experienced out here, no doubts. At the same time, the scaling up, like the way just now Arvind told that even investors are in hurry, like the way startups are also has to be in a hurry. That's the way we are right now. We are looking at a big round in next 15 months, and already we have started mopping up the funds. One of the thing is, just last week we closed one round from a strategic partner who is also signed up to be our distributor for Pan India, who have just come up and invested about 2 crore rupees just last week. We have closed that round. Before that, we had a one convertible round also. So the pipeline is huge, business is huge, and we want to scale more in terms of having more and more technological capabilities in our platform. There are a lot of feature roadmaps which are laid out already. That's about it. Yes, these are our some customers.
Thanks a lot, Chinmay. So we'll be around for questions and discussions afterwards as well, but take a seat in the audience.
Yes.
We're going to have feedback from the investors after all the pitches are done. Okay. So let me now invite Satish Purohit to come up from CogniQuest AI Technologies, our second founder for the day. By the way, all the pitch decks will be published online on mixer.world after this event. So anyone around the world can take a look at them and become their customer, partner, investor, and so on. So Satish, over to you. You also have 7 minutes. Thanks. You have it here.
Yeah, hi. First of all, Thai and Matrix, thank you for organizing this. Myself, Satish Purohit. I'm actually a misfit for being an entrepreneur, quite aged in the times when being young is considered to be a great asset. I have 28 plus years of experience in technology space. First 26 I have spent with Infosys. I joined Infosys as a fresher from NIT Surathkal. And I quit Infosys in 2021 as a head of delivery for insurance vertical globally, managing a $500 million portfolio. During COVID, just like everyone had that question about who am I, what am I doing, etc., I also had those questions, and I quit Infosys with a view to I quit Infosys with a view to be in the startup space without knowing exactly what I would do. So I took a soft landing approach. I became an investor. I have an angel network of 45 people. We have invested over $3 million across multiple startups. And then I also started working on some of the backyard projects. Some of them are in some shapes, but I met the few folks who are my co-founders today. And there I saw a great opportunity to build CogniQuest, and that's the genesis of CogniQuest. CogniQuest is a data-centric AI platform that we are building, which enables business users to process documents, and it has ability to read documents like humans do, right? In this world where everyone is talking about LLMs, ChatGPT and Gen AI, etc., there's a lot of resistance to even think that things can be done in a much simpler way than you going for very expensive system like Gen AI solutions. We have been very fortunate to have some of the large global majors like Infosys and Tech Mahindra come on board as our value-added resellers within 18 months of the starting the startup, right? Sorry. Yeah. So data, as you know, digital transformation, as you know, is a buzzword, and data is key to digital transformation. 60% of the enterprise data lies in documents. And today, one of the big problems that most of the customers are facing is how do I kind of build intelligence in those documents, right? During my tenure at Infosys, I worked with CIOs of global majors. One of the big problems everyone had was how do I kind of make my system smart enough to understand documents, because most of the data is in the documents. So today it's a $1 billion market, the intelligent document processing platform market, but it's expected to grow 5 to 10 times in the next few years. And yeah, as you can see, the adoption of the intelligent document processing is very limited, and it's limited across sectors as well as processes. Yeah. So when I decided to take a plunge, one of the things that I did was to do a market analysis, because although I knew all the competition in the market, I looked at it from the lens of the outsiders. Everest Group is the one which publishes the peak metrics, and if you see this, you will see that it's a very cluttered market, right? So taking a plunge into something which is a cluttered market required us to make sure that we are going after building something which is going to be a good differentiator. So we identified multiple white spaces, and these white spaces are where we have focused to build our capability. this way, right? Is it? Yeah. So there are many issues in the current set of solutions in the market. I'll not get into this, but the fact is that while there are many solutions, still the adoption is low. That is because of the low confidence that people have in the existing solutions. So myself, Satish Gram Purohit, I call myself a chief evangelist because this market is full of skeptics who have tried this solution. They either have half knowledge or they would have burnt their fingers trying out a solution. So I took a role to kind of create that trust and faith in the customers. And I have these 4 co-founders with me. They have 15 plus years of experience building platform like this in a company called as Textual Analytics Services. 2 of them, as you see, are linguists. So they are people who do not come from the technology background. One of them was a journalist. He joined that company where he and Tejasvi have built the LLMs that we talk today, grounds up, be it the ontology, taxonomy, etc. That is a key differentiator for our solution.
2 minutes left.
Yeah. So we call our platform Info Refinery. We have a patented technology. I'll not get into this, but we look at a document from 4 dimensions, and each dimension kind of helps us to kind of ascertain the information in a human-like manner. So that offers us to kind of process documents in a template-free format, right? So one of the issues that customers have is the solutions expect documents to be in a very specific set of templates. It's very difficult to handle unstructured documents as well. Other issue is the time that it takes to train the model and the effort that goes into training the model. That's another issue that we have solved. And the third issue is the business users depend on the technology people for every change that they have to make, which becomes very cumbersome for adoption. Yeah. So we have not had a product market fit issue at all because we started building the solution along with the customer. So we have taken a customer-led approach where we work with the customers to identify what their exact issues are. Now we are in the channel-led phase where we are working with some of the leading SI partners to go to the market. Our end game is to be a API provider who can even work with the competition. In fact, interestingly, some of the names that you saw in the leaders matrix are actually talking to us to use our APIs for problems that they're not able to solve. And our revenue model is annual recurring model with annual license fee, consumption-based pricing, and then professional services. So this is a customer profile. I will not get into this. And we have, within the 18 months, we have not only built an enterprise grade SaaS platform, we also have use cases across multiple industries. One key thing that has helped us to build so many use cases with the customers is the modular way in which the whole user interface as well as the solution is designed. Yeah. So we have, being an investor myself, I have ensured that we have taken the revenue projections from 3 dimensions: conservative, most likely, and optimistic. We have a path to profitability in the next 2 years, and the first 2 years projections are grounds up. The next 3 years are the top down, because it's very difficult to project what will happen 2 years from now.
The time is up.
Yeah. In the funding ask, we're not looking for capital funding currently. We are actually looking for strategic advisory and business connects. We do have angel investment, which is giving us good enough runway for next 18 months. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks so much. So once again, all the decks will be online on mixer.world afterwards. We're going to switch to a very different sector now. I'm going to invite now Rajesh Shekharai to come up on stage and present the pitch for EcoStep Technologies. So very different sector, wastewater processing. You hear a very good presentation right now from Lokesh. Thanks, Lokesh, and all the best to you and to Tarun also, who's not over here.
Yeah, Tarun is traveling actually. He is in Shelter Tech meeting today. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lokesh. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of EcoStep Technologies. Of course, 2 pictures we saw were all purely on technology. This is totally different. Today we have to give importance to environment. Let me quote. See, I come from Bangalore. I stay very near to Bangalore University. Most of you don't know I used to swim in the same place. If you have passed through the Bangalore University campus, you'd see Rishbhavati river flowing. It was crystal clear water some 40 years ago. And as a kid, I played there. And when I told my son I used to swim here, you know what he said? He said, "Don't tell me you used to come home smelling." So kids today don't even know what they lost. That's where I'm coming from. In our rat race, we are losing we are messing up the whole environment, and that is where we come from. Essentially, we are a zero power, zero chemical, net very less maintenance technology. You all know lakes in Bangalore catch fire. Okay, why is this happening? See, to give a simple example, 99% of the world uses a technology called conventional sewage treatment solution, which is nothing but you blow air through the fecal matter, switch off the blower motors. Once the sludge settles down, take the clarified water into another tank, add chemicals, have operators run motors, use filters, and then you get the clear water out. That's exactly what the 99.99% of the world does. For this, you need huge space, you need huge investment, and apart from that, you need a lot of energy. Okay, so this is where we come from. We are, and today 80% of all the sewage water or the waste water which is generated is going into lakes and rivers, which you all are aware. So I need not talk much about it. Where do we come from? We come from an area called biomimicry. What is biomimicry? Biomimicry is nothing but copying nature. Nature has a solution for all our problems. It is just that we don't look at it in the right way. So, where do we come from? Our solution is based on the digestive system of cow. So, little perspective. Biomimicry is nothing but copying nature. Like earlier, bullet trains used to make a lot of noise, and then when they copied the frontage exactly like the kingfisher bird, the sound became zero. So, EcoSTP's inspiration is cow, and it's purely civil structure. Cow stomach has 4 chambers called rumen digesters, and then we all know whatever cow eats, what it gives is good to nature. Correct? Cow dung is good, cow urine is good, milk is good. So, our system also has got 4 stages. Stage 1, 2, 3 goes underground. It's a series of tanks, it's simply a civil structure. And stage 4 is a plantation bed. It's a patented technology. This is how it looks like during construction. It's purely civil construction, there is nothing else. You just construct these series of tanks, and once it is done, this is how my STP looks like. This is in Whitefield. What you see below, this is my sewage treatment plant. This particular apartment in Whitefield uses the water for flushing. So whatever the water, the sewage they generate from the kitchen, from washing machine, whatever, from the toilet, they actually use EcoSTP, and then the treated water is then reused for flushing. So first thing which comes to our mind is sewage treatment plant means smell. We have built sewage treatment plant below a children's play area in one of the apartments. So it's decentralized. For example, you cannot afford government to spend huge amount of money, have acres and acres of land around a city. So this is a decentralized system where you just can build it anywhere. As long as you have space, and the space also doesn't go waste. They are using the entire space for a children's play area, and right below that is my sewage treatment plant.
You have 2 minutes left?
Yeah, this is in Electronic City where we have built it below the car parking. So what are the benefits? Basically, we don't need to use power because it's by gravity. There's no minimum load requirements. You don't need any operators to run the STP. No smell. You get clear water out. So, this is the huge problem. Basically, STPs or sewage treatment plant carries the highest cost. We have treated almost 1 billion liters of water and continue to do so as we speak. We are present in around 24 states across the country, some of our customers, which includes even the Pollution Control Board. more than 200 plus clients and continuing to grow. Most of our CEOs who have used EcoSTP have gone ahead on YouTube and said why they chose us, the reason why they chose us. Of course, we have a couple of patents, and also we have tied up with IIT Jammu for doing a lot of research, and a couple of research they're doing on bacteria inoculum for phenols and other solution. Of course, we are a 6-year-old startup. I mean, we are in this business for almost 6 years now, with and we are profitable. Lot of recognitions. We were Tech 30, of course, ET leader, Matrix. In fact, we are one of the best practices for United Nations. A small team. Tarun is my CEO, and Dr. Praveen is our product head. Ramya takes care of customer support. Some of our mentors from we have a tie-up with Biomimicry Institute, Montana. So some of our mentors are from there. Of course, we have initial funding raised by Habitat for Humanity, who are the world's largest low-cost house builders, and with a huge opportunity available now, in fact we want to be 100 crore plus in next 3 years, and we are looking at funding for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mukesh. Putting the focus on a very important problem all of our living area faces. Our next speaker is from another completely different sector. Let me invite Agnishwar from Garuda Aerospace to come up. Round of applause, please, for Agnishwar.
सर
हाँ कैप्टन, हो गया?
यस सर, आज की स्प्रेइंग पूरी हो गई।
कप्तान?
अरे क्रिकेट का कप्तान?
नहीं, ये है हमारे खेतों का कप्तान।
खेतों का कप्तान? और ये क्या है?
ये
वाह, रोहित तो असल में कप्तान निकला।
अब गरुड़ा के साथ तुम भी बन जाओ खेतों के कप्तान।
गरुड़ा।
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to TIE and Matrix for providing me the opportunity.
How much did that cost you?
You want to get one, sir? I'll get it to you for free. No problem. Yeah, we can start the slideshow. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Agnishwar Jayaprakash. I'm the founder and CEO of Garuda Aerospace, one of India's largest and most valuable drone companies. With that quick, I'd say, advertisement commercial break, let me give you a quick intro about myself and how we started Garuda Aerospace. I'm a former Asian gold medalist in the sport of swimming. Might not look like that now, put on a few pounds. But back when I was shredded and ripped, I was very good friends with Mahendra Singh Dhoni. In year 2007, when he won the World Cup for India in T20, I had 122 gold medals in a span of 100 days. Obviously, that never got any publicity because in the sport of swimming. But the friendship goes back a long way. That is why when I asked him to become our brand ambassador and investor, he chose to do the same, valuing our friendship. But we are also, we had another great brand ambassador in the form of the Honorable Prime Minister of our country, who launched 100 of our drones in 100 different locations, thereby cementing Garuda Aerospace as one of the top drone companies, because when you have such big behemoths as pillars of your organization's brand, we must have done something right over the last 7 years. I was an alumni of the Harvard Business School and a mechanical engineer before then, but I'd worked in the United Nations for a couple of years under Madam Lakshmi Puri. And during which time I had the access to a lot of case studies and impact reports and how drones can disrupt several multi-billion-dollar segments and industries in India and other developing countries like Southeast Asia, Africa, South America, etc. So came back to India 2016. I founded Garuda Aerospace. Over the last 7 years, we have cemented market dominance in the precision agricultural drone segment, the drone that you saw, and also the consumer industrial 4.0 segments. You've seen that Garuda in the last couple of years have like cemented technology and superiority amongst its peers by becoming the first ever dual DGCA certified drone company for both manufacturing as well as for training. We are an end-to-end drone system integrator, right from manufacturing to drone-based services to data, technology, software platforms, joint development of technology with likes of Lockheed Martin, Cognizant Technologies, Amazon Web Services, Elbit Systems. We work with them because we scale a lot faster. We have about 35 patents, products, as well as design patents with us, and we have 3 manufacturing facilities: one in Chennai, one in Mysore, the other in Prayagraj. Both of them are one with BEML as well as HAL, which showcases our capabilities to scale manufacturing upwards of 30,000 drones per year. And we've developed a lot of different types of drones, ranging from agriculture to defense to pipeline inspection drones. We fit up our drones with a lot of probe sensors, magnetometers, high-powered sprayers, lasers. We've in fact developed niche type of drones, stringing wires for L&T, delivery drones for Swiggy, warehouse management drones for Flipkart, solar panel cleaning drones, which was liked by Elon Musk on Twitter. That led to our pre-series A funding round of $1 million in 2021. And we've developed a lot of different types of drones, but what makes Garuda different is the manner in which we look at right product market fit, a lot of added AI, ML software platforms and dashboards that help clients increase efficiency and reduce expenses. We in fact coined drones as a services in country, and that is the reason why we have amassed over 350 clients, notably from Adani, Reliance, Vedanta, Godrej, including Survey of India, where we've covered over 7,000 villages, long-standing contracts with NHAI, IOCL. A lot of work has been done, and we've gained a lot of experience, and that is the reason why we have like spread our wings, diversified into various different segments and sectors. And in India, you're seeing a lot of sectors getting traction. Seeing recently IdeaForge going public, a lot of companies going SME public route, Coromandel investing into the space, Reliance and Adani is getting a strategic piece. So, and of course, Garuda has also raised $22 million in Series A, but that is primarily based on liberalization of the drone rules. And the single point what I wanted to speak to you today about is our agricultural drone, which has created immense benefits for the agricultural community. We have developed this drone over the last 3 years. It has been introduced into the agro segment. It is saving 70% of pesticide usage, 80% of water usage. It is 7 to 10 times more amount of acres and distance that what a manual spraying is capable of doing. And more importantly, this is the highest utilization ratio of any type of drones. Usually when you talk about drones, it's always about marriages, events, sporting events, etc. But when it comes to any project monitoring or defense, you do not have sustainable buy-ins. Whereas when it comes to agriculture, regardless of whether Rahul Gandhi becomes the next prime minister or if Trump becomes the next president, you still need like those, like in terms of drone-based spraying, every single year farmers are spending 20 to 25,000 crores to get their fields sprayed 6 to 8 times in a year. So this gives us opportunity to enter into the data play. We're collecting a lot of data thanks to the AI ML that's loaded onto the drone. Our target market is not the farmers who just use drones as a service. The people who we will ultimately sell these drones to are rural entrepreneurs and village level entrepreneurs. This allows Garuda to be asset light. We make a 40% margin on every drone that is being sold to rural entrepreneurs, a 8 to 10% margin on every acre that is sprayed, because ultimately the service contract that the farmer wants is with us and we just subcontract it, much like a Uber. So Garuda usually, when I go and speak on platforms, we project it as a Tesla plus an Uber of the drone space. And that has been helped by a lot of progressive government policies. Again, Garuda was the first company to receive both the agri-drone loan as well as a drone subsidy. We're also one of the 14 manufacturers that are part of the PLI initiative, and we follow a very asset-light approach. We have over 10,000 drones that have been pre-booked. 5,000 agricultural drones and 6,000 drone drones, which will be launched next week. And when you take a look at what we foresee, we will have 3x the amount of revenue that IdeaForge that recently went public will have by the end of this year. That's roughly about 350 to 400 crores in terms of revenue, and with a very good EBITDA of about 25%. We've been profitable for the last 2 years. We have been a consumer funded growth company and not an investment funded growth company, which is why we have managed to follow a asset light, market agnostic, and recession proof business model that is focused on unit economics. Those are all keywords and terms that a lot of investors are looking for these days, especially when it comes to the funding winter. And thankfully, Garuda has managed to achieve that despite a lot of obstacles and challenges, the COVIDs, and all of these challenges aside. I believe that we have done phenomenally well. And we're a 200 member strong team. We have a grand vision and love to catch up with you if you have any questions about Garuda Aerospace. And again, so thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Anisha. We come to the last of the pitches now from Clovetrix. I'm looking for Aishwarya Karnataki. Please come on. So once again, all these pitch decks will be online on Mixer.world, and Vinay afterwards will talk about the engagement, right? He showed a QR code earlier, and we'll come back to how you can give in your inputs to how you can help some of these startups over here. But a big round of applause now for Aishwarya, and also the first women entrepreneur of the evening. Maybe more women in tech and all.
Thank you so much. Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So good evening everyone, I am Aishwarya Karnataki and this is Parikshit Soni. We are the co-founders of Glovatrix and we are very thrilled to share our ideas with you. Before I share the idea, I would like to tell you a very interesting story of a with disabilities and went ahead. So
I think your mic is on.
I'm sorry, was that uncomfortable?
It's part of the pitch.
I'm sorry, was that uncomfortable when the audio malfunctioned for 10 seconds? Did you guys feel like you were missing out on some information?
I fell for it.
Yes, well, that's how deaf people have been feeling all their lives. And this feeling of being left out is heartbreaking. That is why we are here to ensure that every deaf person feels included and has the ability to express themselves in their native language, the sign language, and yet be understood by all. So according to WHO, there are 466 million deaf people in this world, which is more than the total population of USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and UK combined. Yes. We aim to unleash the potential of these 466 million people who are left out and silent from the mainstream society and thus help push humanity forward through our device, the fifth sense. So in a world full of voices, millions of deaf and speech impaired people are left unheard because the majority of people don't understand sign language. As a result, their unique perspectives, talents and aspirations remain hidden behind walls of silence. So this communication gap is just the tip of the iceberg and leads to many underlying issues such as repressed emotions, frustration, anxiety, depression, discrimination at workplace and so many more. And this creates a ripple effect which affects negatively in all aspects of their life, from education to employment, from socialization to healthcare. They face numerous challenges and missed opportunities. Let me just quickly tell you the story of why I decided to do this. So back in 2008, I was in 8th standard, that's me in the picture. So my school had a separate section for children with disabilities. And I used to notice that while all the other kids with disabilities had friends to play with, this child, Atharva, a 6-year-old deaf child, always played alone. And he was quite lonely because he didn't understand, he couldn't hear what is happening and nobody could understand his sign language. So I started learning sign language to interact with him. And when he realized that there is someone who could not only understand him but reply back to him in his language, he was so happy. I still remember that moment. He had tears of joy. And since then I had this burning desire to help deaf people communicate. And then many years later I met Parikshit at a party and he joined forces with me to form Glovatrix, and that's the story of how Fifth Sense was born. you at the end.
Okay, so hi, I'm Parikshit. I'm the co-founder at Provatrix. So introducing the fifth sense. It is essentially resembles a smartwatch. It can be thought of as a smart glove also. How we do translation of sign languages, we use sensors on the tip of the fingers. These sensors are motion sensors which stream data over Bluetooth to our mobile application, where our AI/ML algorithms process it. We also have other basic features of smartwatch like vibrating motor, microphone, speakers, a touchscreen display, and so on, so that we can also enable two-way communication for the speech and hearing impaired people. So using our devices, some of the features are the two-way communication that we are enabling, so that deaf people can also understand what we are saying. Next. We also have background sound detection. So for example, a deaf person will miss out on background sounds such as doorbell, cooker whistle, baby crying, fire alarm. So all these background sounds will be picked up by the devices and will show notifications relevant to that particular background sound. We also have multiple languages output. So the sign language, while it can be same, if I'm doing the sign language in Maharashtra as compared to Karnataka, the output language can vary based on the user's preference. We have also enabled a peer-to-peer communication. So what we took advantage of, like we all have nicknames. Deaf people usually have sign names for each other. So sign name is essentially a gesture. So in a working environment, if one waiter or if one deaf person wants to call another deaf person, he can't just do that like we do. So they can do the sign name and the other deaf person can get notified on their device that I am trying to get in touch with them.
You have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, finally the design is ergonomic and we have also included a waterproof, dust-proof feature and an emergency mode. We have applied for a patent, we have successfully applied for a patent and we got it approved last year. Next. Yeah, we are currently in the 8th iteration of our hardware. Our software stack is almost ready, which comprises of the AI, ML, cloud infrastructure and app.
So our pilots have generated overwhelming positivity and our users and beta testers are waiting for the market launch. Letters of recommendations have poured in from decade-old institutes which have been working with the deaf people. So the global TAM is of 466 million people, but our serviceable obtainable market is of 25,000 people that we've pinpointed across 83 institutes from Pune, Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore. We have no direct competition in the Indian markets. However, globally there are two companies which make similar products, but as you can see the price is exorbitant as compared to ours.
So I'll just quickly tell you about the go-to-market strategy. So Indian Sign Language is the language on which we are basing our product on. It has around 20,000 gestures, and yes, we cannot incorporate all of them immediately. So what we plan to do is we plan to position our device as a workplace communications tool. So for example, we are working with a restaurant which is completely run and managed by a deaf staff. So we'll go to this restaurant, understand what gestures are important to them and incorporate those first. Similarly, there are other people like Decathlon, PVR Cinemas, Lemon Tree Hotels who all are actively hiring deaf people. So we'll also build on the top of the same business strategy, and eventually after a year we'll do a complete B2C launch where any deaf person can order the device like any other consumer electronic device from our websites.
Your time is up.
Yeah, so along the way we just received quite some awards. I'll just skim through them. That is it. Yeah, so thank you so much. We hope you can be a part of our journey in creating a disability-friendly world.
Thanks, Aishwarya. Thanks, Parikshit. Thanks so much for the fantastic presentation. With that, we come to the end of the Startup Showcase, 5 startups. Vinay is going to explain a little bit about how to do engagement with these startups in terms of what they need, what you can do with them. And while we do that, let me also get 5-6 chairs up on stage so that we can have the panel next after this. So Vinay, over to you.
So we have 5 founders who have actually shared their inputs, what they do. So we thought, why not give you open mic for a minute while you talk about what you do and what is your ask from the experts and the community. Right, so we have Avi Sethi from DualSafe, we have Prabal from UAVIO.in, we have William from SwiftRide, we have Mahesh from FiberRefi, and we have Chandramohan from Banashri. So Chandramohan, would you like to first start? You could, we're just going to give you 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, where you can talk about what you do and what's your ask from the experts and community. Right?
Good evening, everybody. First of all, thanks for IoT guys to share my experience here. Can you start now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, I represent a startup called Banasri Renewable Energy Systems Private Limited. So we have some innovation in battery technology. Yeah. So we have some innovation in storage space in renewable energy, where we can refurbish any dead or weak batteries, lead acid battery, at TAM of $5 billion in India and $70 billion worldwide. So what we have done is, without opening the battery in eco-friendly way, we can extend the life and efficiency. The problem we are solving is sulfation, which is corrosion of electrodes within the plates of the battery. And the benefits are the capex, opex, and also carbon footprint. Okay. So what we have done till now is, we have done some 15,000 batteries, different market segments, like telecom, railways, defense. We just associated with Government of Karnataka Pollution Control Board, where we are getting recommended as one of the partners to refurbish the batteries before recycling. And we are looking for creating awareness of this solution in the market, and also helping hands to penetrate into every battery of the world. Thank you.
Vivian from Scriptride, are you here? We have the 5 more minutes that we'll take for this.
Yeah. Hello, so I'm Vivian, and since I have 1 minute, I'll just ask 4 questions and we're done. What are the advantages of public transport? Anyone? For you, as an individual, what's the advantage of using public transport? Affordable, correct? What's the disadvantage? Crowded, lot of disadvantages.
Last mile connectivity.
Exactly. So the only reason people would use public transport is because they're affordable, correct? If they're expensive, would people use it? How many of you think I will use public transport if it's expensive? Nobody. Now, cabs and autos, what's the number 1 advantage? Convenience. And what's the number 1 disadvantage? Expensive, exactly. So the only reason people don't use cabs and autos on a daily basis is expensive. So as a college student myself, I face this issue while commuting to college. Should I sacrifice convenience or affordability? So I built a car and bike pooling app where students don't have to sacrifice this. They can have a convenient and affordable commute to their colleges. And currently, you can look at my team behind. We are building India's first car and bike pooling app, and we are part of the Google for Startups Bootcamp, which have the demo day in 2 months' time. So before that, we are planning to raise a smaller amount. So if you're interested, you can come talk to me. Thank you.
So we have Avi Sethi from Dual Safe. Is Avi here? Yeah. And then I'd like Mahesh from Fiberify and Prabal from UAVO, if you're here. You can just say a quick word.
Hi, good evening, guys. Thank you for having me. My name is Avi Sethi. I'm the marketing director of Dual Safe. So we're a product-based company that started about 2.5 years ago. We're working on a helmet for a two-wheeler rider that splits into 2 individual helmets for the passenger as well. So you're saving space for 2 helmets, but it's all fitting in together. And we're also embedding a lot of IoT features into it. So you have Bluetooth connectivity, you can listen to music, have GPS connectivity, everything fed into you directly, so you don't have to look at your phone, which is quite unsafe while on a two-wheeler rider. And we also have intra-helmet communication, so you can talk to the person sitting behind you, so you don't have to turn around. You know, every single problem when you're on a two-wheeler, it's been solved with one helmet. That's essentially what we've been working on. We're still in our prototype stage. I would call it pre-revenue, actually. We've placed orders with China, and we're talking to a lot of OEM manufacturers like Honda, TVS, Ather Electric, who are willing to do beta testing for when our product launches. So currently, with the ask, we're looking for about 8.5 to 10 crore. That would help us push our manufacturing and distribution and set up our assembly centers and such. That's about it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mahesh is here? Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. The way you have Apple Watch, which gives you the vitals of your health, you have created a technology for the people to get the health of the internet infrastructure, so that they can proactively go and maintain the internet infrastructure. That's it. That's what we have been doing for the last 3 years. And customers like Tata Communications, Vodafone, ACT, Act Broadband, Robi Axiata in Bangladesh, and we have a lot of other customers, and we are growing. And that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think I put Lotfi on the spot. And the final startup for the open mic.
Yeah, hi, thanks for this opportunity. My name is Prabal. I represent UAVIO Labs. We are a Bangalore-based startup making AI-enabled indoor drones. with GPS denied navigation functionality. So one of the primary use cases we are tackling first is inventory audits and inventory management in a warehouse, where the drone can be programmed for an autonomous mission to just scan the different shelves and then collect data. And because of the onboard computer on the drone, it can process the images and read the data on board and then transfer it to any ERP or any ground software that you have. We are a team of 8, and we are currently looking to raise some funds and get some investor contacts. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Over to Madan.
Thanks everyone. We now come to executive time now. We now come to the next 1 hour of a deep dive of the investor outlook on what we just heard, these 5 entrepreneurs. So let me invite on stage now Arjun Rao, General Partner from Special Invest. So please come up on stage. First investor please. And Arjun, can you sit in the order of names? So if you can sit in the left corner over there. Let me also invite Rajiv Raghunandan to come up on stage. Rajiv is the Managing Partner for Arali Ventures. Rajiv, please come up. Rajiv is coming up. Sit next to Arjun. We also have with us Ravindra Krishnappa, Managing Partner for Jira Ventures. Ravi, please come up in the middle. Also with us is Parag Dole, General Partner for Athira Venture Partners. Parag, please come up. And also with us is Sai Pramod, AVP Investments at Caspian Debt. Lakshmi, we are waiting for Lakshmi Raghunathan from Derby Foundation. Please, on your way when she comes, we'll fly her into the stage, kind of. So, first of all, a big round of applause for 5 very busy, very actively fast investors who are very gracious to share the time and energy with us today. My first question to each of you is, can you briefly talk about maybe your portfolio so far, your investment thesis, those kinds of things in just a minute or so each? Let's pass the mic.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. I'm Arjun from Special Invest. We're an early stage venture fund focused on what we call deep technology ideas. We invest in the pre-seed, seed stage, $500,000 to $1 million in hardware and software innovation. On the software side, we try to focus on enterprise software, AI, machine learning, data infrastructure, cloud, dev tooling. On the hardware side, we're looking at intersection of hardware, engineering, sciences, and software to solve large problems in large industries. We've done things in space technology, robotics, EVs, battery technology, looking now closely at semiconductors as well as synthetic biology. A lot of emerging sectors that we think are going to impact and disrupt large industries over the next decade or so. That's the area of focus. So anybody building in these areas, we're super excited.
Thanks, Arjun. How about you, Ravi?
Hi, my name is Rajiv. I run a seed pre-seed fund called Arali Ventures. Arali is focused on B2B tech investing. We are sector agnostic within B2B. And while I say B2B tech, Arjun said deep tech, we as a fund can do shallow tech also. I don't use the word shallow lightly. What I mean is business innovation also. Some of my founders get very upset when I say that because they are deep tech in their own right. I mean, we have done some investments together also.
Yes, of course.
In terms of areas, it's sector agnostic, but SaaS and B2B commerce / marketplaces tend to be a big part of what we do. But we also do fintech, health tech, health tech, sustainability, and the like. Sorry.
And the founder is calling him right now.
Yeah, even when it's on silent, it misbehaves. And we also do hardware in the context of today's presentation. We've done 4 investments in our first fund that involved hardware. Not that it was a conscious choice. 2 in health tech and 2 in robotics and distribution and manufacturing. Seed and pre-seed, so would love to engage with all of you.
Thanks, Arjun. Ravindra?
I could probably just say ditto and then stop it. Easiest one. So Ravi Krishnappa, July Ventures. We're usually the first institutional investor, pre-Series A. So our average deployment is about 4 or 5 crores, but then we keep a reserve for doubling down on double that piece. Young fund as compared to most of the others here. Just started deploying last Jan. We average about 1 deployment every 6-8 weeks. Has been mostly on what we call as platform business, fintech, SaaS, supply chain. So a lot of what has been talked by others here. I think our claim to fame is that we're all ex-entrepreneurs, ex-investors, in the sense that our team is a very high partner to portfolio ratio. We today average less than 2 portfolio for each partner, which is kind of unheard of. And we make sure that we don't go beyond a partner to portfolio ratio of 1:4. So we are what is called as active investors in that sense.
Thanks, Avida. This is from Parag.
Hi, Parag Goel from Athera Venture Partners. Some of you will know us as Inventors. Inventors India. We have been here since 2008, made 35 investments. Consumer internet, software as a service, and deep tech is what we do. Think about companies like Redbus, Policy Bazaar. But we have been significant investors on the B2B side and done a lot of deep tech as well. For example, Pixel, Blue Armor, which is very similar to the helmet company that came and presented today. 5 of us based here invest, let us say, 5 to 40 crores in companies in pre-series A and Series A rounds.
Thanks, Parag. How about you, Sai?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sai Pramod. I lead SME investments at Caspian Debt and no ditto because that's something which we try to do, mainstream debt or non-dilutive capital as a means of capital for early stage companies as well. So we are a impact and ESG focused credit management company registered as an NBFC. Been in this business for about 10 years, and we invest in various sectors like food and agriculture, clean tech, healthcare, education, water and sanitation, financial inclusion, women focused enterprises is also one area of focus for us. And over the last 10 years, we've provided more than 3,000 crores of fund debt capital to companies. We currently have assets of 600 crores across 140 different companies, and overall this 3,000 crores was invested across 250 companies as such. So we primarily provide to companies which are at least 2 to 3 years of operational revenue, have professionally managed management, and then obviously backed by investors like you, where we piggyback on them as well. So that's in brief in terms of what we do.
Great, thanks, Sam. Thanks to all of you for setting the stage now. I'm sure all the founders are very interested to know what are some of your reactions to the pitches we just heard. Not ranking and rating each one, but overall, which ones maybe stand out? Are they on the right track? Are there other trends they should be picking on, etc.? Let's begin from this end. Sam.
Sure. For me, it felt like the Hollywood sci-fi movies which we used to see probably 10-15 years ago, that felt like reality now. I think Glovatrix, Planet of the Apes just run where the apes talks, or the drones, Iron Man. So looks like many of them is getting to reality in terms of what was termed as sci-fi. Probably Hollywood now needs to put it across, which is not very
Are kind of examples is that the same thing is happening at the sensor level, isn't it? Everything is becoming cheaper. Then you look at the data that needs to be pushed up and the processing that can be done there. Everything is speeded up. Everything is much less costly, etc., etc. So these kind of solutions now, utilizing cheap sensors for, let's say, the deaf market, for instance, or a drone for that matter. And I did my engineering at a time when GPS
So first and foremost was the diversity, right? One of the things I saw somebody like Garuda with that brand and what breadth and support you have, whereas a few others who are just starting off, or you're still into pre-revenue. So I see a good diversity. The second piece that I see is that although you have a B2B flavor in some cases, mostly the B2C flavor, what I see is that you're taking people taking the lead to say, I'm going to make the change that I want to see, right? Not just from what you would want to see from an eco perspective, or even what we want to do from an agri-reach perspective, right? So very heartening for somebody who's been in this ecosystem for the last 20 plus years, or actually longer. I think the time is now for all of us to stand up and take notice. And I think the credit goes to the entrepreneurs here. You actually are creating that platform, I believe, that is going to make a dramatic shift as we go forward, right? So very, very heartening, and a pat on your backs, because this has been a great, just the diversity. A few years ago, you would have everybody come and say, I'm doing this, and you will have a lot of me toos. So if you ask me, one thing that I stood there and kept thinking is, how do we encourage this diversity, and how as an ecosystem do we go back and cater to this? Because I'm not sure we as the VC community is ready to accept this diversity. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, right? I think that's something that we have to figure out. But that's a challenge and question to myself.
I think listening to Ravi, right, the breadth definitely echoed, and the breadth of innovation in terms of areas and diversity of kind of people, right? I think Satish mentioned it that from an age perspective he possibly stands out. Actually, you don't, Satish. I think as B2B founders, I think this age is becoming the norm, right? When Lokesh was talking, it was so interesting to see, and actually as a VC fund, for me it's also very humbling to see the life stage at which people are becoming founders today, right? As someone who became myself an entrepreneur at the age of 39, super resonate with maybe the kind of challenges some of you faced, right? And so that breadth and that diversity is super interesting. And Ravi actually stole my line when he said that, again, when I speak for myself as a VC investor, and you'll hear this, there is a certain commonality to the businesses. We may all invest in very different things, but there are characteristics that VC investors will look for in common. And my only submission, and I keep saying this to a lot in forums like these, that Madan said he has an investor panel. Actually, it's not an investor panel. With the exception of Sai, we are all VC investors. And there is a certain commonality there, right? So when you folks look at investors, you should look at actually investors, not necessarily VC investors. That's a very small microcosm, maybe too glamorized a microcosm, too much focus, but there is a much wider investor canvas, which maybe has the ability and maturity, to Ravi's point, to accept the diversity of businesses, which Parag will beat me up. He's senior. That maybe VC investors may not have the maturity.
A lot of amazing points covered. So, couple of observations I'll make. One, because we relate as a fund to certain aspect, there's a very strong hardware plus software combination, and that's very exciting in general to see a lot of industries, with data, AI, and then whether Parag mentioned sensors. That combination is going to change so much, and we are seeing some examples in there. The other flavor within that was both on the Garuda side as well as on the water treatment, sustainability, climate, we're all dealing with every day. So again, amazing to see that. Little bit I'll pick up on what Rajiv said. Was the other thought that came to mind is there's decent revenues in a few of these companies, profitability, which also somebody else mentioned. The point is markets are very, very large, right? And there are pockets for amazing companies to be built. It doesn't have to be $10 billion company, $1 billion company, but it can be really high quality companies of various sizes, various levels of profitability. there's again that maybe diversity of that nature was also visible in there. That we might feel, hey, winner takes all in this market, and that's a VC mindset, referring to what he said, but not necessarily true. There are a lot of pockets, really large markets out there, so many customers, small, medium, large geographies, right? If you just stick to your focus, do what you do best, and there was some flavor of that. So I just wanted to highlight those 2 points.
Great, thanks, Arjun. Another kind of diversity also was the levels of maturity of some of the startups, in terms of some of them don't want funding, some have raised one round, they want the next round. So my question to all of you is, how should founders approach this whole cycle of going from one investor to the next cycle and so on? What are some issues they should look out for in terms of whether it is getting investors to agree with one another, or managing the board of directors, managing equity dilution, things of that sort? Arjun, you want to start?
Yeah, it's a very wide and broad question. And again, I'm very young in the venture world, still learning. So the thing that keeps coming back to me, and particularly now that we have seen the 2020 and 21 cycle, correction, slowdown, winter, whatever you want to call that, the realization that fundamental business is what it's all about, right? So when you relate that to, how should an entrepreneur think about finding investors, and then at different stages, I think as long as the founder is able to, find the right alignment with the investors in terms of what is the long-term philosophy and the vision of what they're trying to build, right? Whether it's at seed stage or at A or at B, right? If every investor coming in is aligned with the founder on that journey, there's a better chance that everything else can be solved. The rest are, in my opinion, technicalities and numbers and details, right? But the headline has always to be, what is this business about? What is this founder's view to building what sort of, lasting value creation? And therefore, hey, the pre-seed guys should be excited. When they get some momentum, the Series A guys should be excited. And then, of course, the larger investors should come in. So that I'm giving a slightly philosophical view as opposed to a very specific answer. For me, it's about, I'm realizing it, and we're also telling this to some of our portfolio companies, that don't worry about what the investor cares about. Please present yourself in what you want to build, and just say next milestone this, right? As long as the big picture is there, I think you will find the right partners, right? Because every investor, like we said, not just VC, non-VC, but even within VC, there are different types of investors. And we agree with certain business models, we don't agree with certain business models. So just finding your fit should be the way to think about it.
Founder VC fit. Rajiv, any comments?
Arjun reminded me of 2021, and we went through those waves of COVID, right? Most people were work from home. And there were so many days when we would read, every day on Tracker or Your Story, the news would come out, and we'd, be on our calls, internal calls, and say, and there was this one company, I forget, maybe there was more than one, which raised a round in February at X 100 million, and the next round happened in July, so we were still in lockdown at 2x 100 million, right? And we kept asking each other, what are we missing? What are we not understanding? And we figured that finally we said, maybe we just don't understand some stuff. But life, I think, came a full circle. And to answer your question specifically on, as you go through rounds of funding, what should you think about? Ideally, you shouldn't go through too many rounds of funding. That's, and just let that be with you, right? Ideally, why should you always be raising funding? If the fundamentals are in place, there are points in time when you should be raising funding. We were with a founder 3 weeks ago and said, why are you raising money? And it's a great business. We want to invest in him, but he doesn't really need the capital, having raised a round recently, right? So ideally, ask yourself the question: Do you need that next round at all? And secondly, assuming that there will be businesses where you will need capital for growth and other things. And this is a comment actually a friend of mine who's a founder of a 200 million company made at our annual event. He said, at every round when you're raising, ask yourself as a founder the question whether the pace of value creation is in pace with the pace of valuation, right? And he thought it was a very interesting comment when you look back on what happened in 2021, when the pace of valuation increased far exceeded the pace of value creation in the underlying business. Right? I just think that's.
Yeah. So again, contextual to what we saw today, right? We saw people very early stage. We saw people who've been there for a long process. I think the the first thing that I would do as an entrepreneur if I'm sitting on the other side is do a whole lot of evaluation on who am I going to ask money from, right? And why do I need to use that money? Because I do believe that in India we get carried away with VC. A lot of businesses that we build don't need equity investors. That's my belief, and I can probably say this with conviction because I built two businesses that I've exited profitably, and both of them did not take VC money. So first question to ask yourself is, do I need to take money as equity? Because the moment you go and ask a VC for the money, please remember that all of us are firstly beholden to our right? So at a very general level, thesis, I was probably much more aggressive as an investor and I was an angel investor than I am now that I've taken money, right? Because I now have to be the trustee of that money. And I'm not making or I'm not diluting or increasing what it is. This is the truth as it is, right? I probably will be less riskier in my outlook as compared to when I was playing with my own money, right? So those are two things that I think all entrepreneurs who are going to ask money should be very, very careful, because we have taken money from somebody else based on those two components. There's a timeline associated to returning that. There's a thesis associated to what we have sold as a concept, and our first priority is to make sure that we are true to those commitments. Can I just add one more? One other thing that I saw, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is in the last few months, almost a year and a half, I now start seeing a whole lot of people who are comfortable adding a service component to a product component, right? And this is something that I've asked myself to say, why are people so uncomfortable? I mean, partly, I'm again taking the blame as a VC, but we can always say, what's your scale? What's your product strategy? How you want to grow? But going back to my entrepreneurial days, I would always have a small component of a service piece, not because of what I used to call as solutioning, but just to create that moat that I can go back to a customer base on. And I'm glad to see it coming back, at least in few of the pitches. Sorry, I had to add that.
No. It's perfectly fine. So two things I would say, and a lot has been said already, but that I agree with mostly. So I think first is funding, especially for product companies, if you look at it, is a continuous requirement, and hence treat funding as a line, not as a point. So what does that mean tactically? Tactically, that means that first time you have an idea, you bounce it around with 15-20 people in the funding segment. Some eyes will light up and some will be playing with their mobile phones. Ignore the guys who are playing with their mobile phones. Go and focus on the people who kind of there seems to be a connect. Keep in touch with them even if they say you're too early, etc. Send them updates, and at each round do this, so to speak. So find the right set of investors for Series A, Seed Series A, etc. So that is one approach. Second thing that I would say is, and referred to in various other words, but chemistry is really important with the investor. See, this is a 7, 8, 10-year marriage. Okay, I would treat this almost as a co-founder. The amount of effort, the amount of thinking that you put into finding a co-founder. I've sat on boards where the VCs or the private equity guys who might have invested a lot of money in the company have been very disruptive. It's a very, very strange place for for me to be forget about, I have so much empathy for the founders. So be sure that the guy who's coming in onto your board is taking a seat on the board. So treat that with all seriousness and make sure that this is not a 2021 investor who doesn't understand your business, and at the first sign of trouble he'll make you mad. Okay, so please do that if you can. If you don't have a choice, then I guess that's a different matter. But if you have a choice, choose chemistry. And chemistry is not with the firm. Chemistry is with the person. So make sure to do your due diligence.
Excellent advice. Alright, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think again the question probably needs to be flipped a little bit, considering rounds is very different from debt, but and I think both Rajiv and Raghu, you're probably making a case for debt when you're asking not to go on. Is it okay? So good vindication of it, but yeah, that's what it is. But what we at Caspian also always make it a point is that when any company is coming forward to take debt, be cognizant of what you're also entering into, right? Unlike VC capital, which also has a date for providing returns to them, but there is a longer horizon to that. But debt capital is not that way. It's probably starts the next month you take it. Of course, we do a lot of structuring to help the companies based on their underlying cash flows. Okay, if there's a need for a moratorium, or okay, if it's a 3-month period where you will take to deploy this debt and into your working capital, then the receivable starts coming in, fine, we can try structuring it where it is a win-win for both. But understand the fact that okay, there's an interest outflow which goes from the moment you take, or a principal repayment during a certain period, and there are consequences for not meeting it as per timelines. Reserve Bank has very clear guidelines on what to do with it. So that's something which we definitely advise. It's also tempting to say, okay, given the cost of capital for debt is a little much lower than what it would be by diluting equity, there is some sort of temptation where okay, you are able to grow at least to a certain extent by not diluting your equity and taking debt, but piling up is also very well known in terms of all corporate defaults what happened. But for early stage entrepreneurs, that's something which in fact we put on our blog also to say when not to take debt, because yeah, it's ultimately the lending which we do is collateral free, so it's very important that the company also stays along during the tenure or even later. So that's one thing which I wanted to put it across. And another aspect which about chemistry and finding the that equally applies to us. Many of them also come to us saying, we have this huge order of say 30 crores, we have a working capital gap of say 10, 15, we need it immediately. We always ask them to hold on. Why don't we start with something small, because we don't know if we are the right partner for you, or I'll probably, even when time comes, tell what we also look when companies take debt from us. But we typically start small and try to scale up over a period of time. That's how we bring in some level of control to the companies which are taking in debt as well. So successive rounds of funding, I've probably just flipped it to say how we approach to companies taking in debt as well.
Correct, thanks. I've got a couple of more questions for the panel, and I want to ask all of you to also jump in with your questions. But the next question for the panel is, we heard a lot of the founders also talking about scale. They want to scale pan-India, they want to scale overseas and so on. So what are some challenges startups typically face when they scale pan-India or global, and how can they overcome these challenges, and how do you help them overcome challenges?
Yeah, I think we have enough examples in our portfolio as well where they do scale. By the time they come to us, they probably would have made the decision to, but we've seen cases where they have not been successful. Probably that's something which I can tell is that do the founders understand the risk in probably trying to scale up quickly as well. Some of them are probably not able to manage the operations when it's quite spread out in terms of bringing in that control or quality, which typically would be much better when they are at a smaller scale. So is the process and systems designed to be able to handle the scale when either pan India or overseas? That's something which we definitely try to understand when giving the additional debt for them when they try to scale. And one thing about overseas also, which you said, uh, early stage companies, typically what we've also observed is that um, there are grand expansion plans, the revenue is booked, etc., but it's stuck in receivables. And especially in overseas sort of companies, uh, this is something which I feel is that when receivables are stuck for a long time, it can even go to an extent of killing a company, because you put in your entire effort to be able to deliver the product or service, right? So managing those sort of operational aspects also is very much required when trying to scale up. This is based on our experience which we've seen with some of our portfolio companies.
Challenges in how to solve them.
I think basically it's a conundrum, isn't it? We VCs essentially invest in growth companies, and we kind of push our founders to grow fast. And that the flip side to that is that if you grow from one city to the other, or let us say from India to the US, when you have not figured out the unit economics of the unit, which is Bangalore, for example, and you go to Hyderabad, that's a very bad place to be, even if money is available. As a founder, please make sure that when you define a unit of your business, whether it is city, Koramangala, whatever that unit is, and make sure that the business makes sense in that unit before you go to another unit, even if money is available. Okay, it's postponing that problem comes with so many things. Hardest thing for a founder to do, honestly, is to fire people, isn't it? So it will get to that if you start with the wrong assumption. So that in my mind is the biggest challenge. And if you look at research data, unfortunately, the most often reason for companies failing is scaling prematurely. So just make sure that you do not fall in that probability bucket, because that's a bad place to be.
Yeah. So although VCs push the startup to scale because we have invested in scale, there is a piece that I think we need to miss. There's a piece I think all of us need to understand, that nobody wants to be in a position, especially the founder, where you have said that I'll grow at all cost. Nobody wants that. Not good for you, not good for the employees, not good for your company, and especially not good for investors, because the cost very, very expensive. The second piece is that I think we spend too much time figuring out how to scale, not locking in why do I need to scale. Right? Are you looking at new geography because your existing geography doesn't provide a big enough market opportunity? Then the how is very different, right? So you don't spend time figuring out the why. This is my opinion, right? And I can give examples for this. One of the mixers, I was almost lambasted when I said, they had somebody in from the Dutch, and we had Israeli, and all of them were saying, come to our country. I think Canada also saying, coming to our country, and I kept saying, why would you want to go there? The market here is large enough, big enough, deep enough to take all of your services and more. Why would you want to go and expand, right? So I think the question there is that a lot of that, I get told, even this morning somebody was saying, I'm going to expand to Canada. So my first question was why? What is it that you have faced as a problem? And if there is something that you can go back and figure out. So why is it that you want to get out of a particular region? Is something that I still think a lot of people don't pay attention to. So those would be my top points, right? First, growth can't be at all costs. You have to go and figure out what is it that you're giving up when you're trying to go fast, right? Granted, there will be some things that you're going to give up, right? It's either control or your ability to provide quality service. There's something that is getting missed out. So you have to be comfortable with what is it that you're getting missed out. And the second major thing is, once you figure out why, then you need to go back and say, is that something I really want to do on a long-term basis, or I'm doing it because I've been told it's the sexy thing to do. Right? I think get yourself out of that.
To scale or not to scale, and how?
Yeah, maybe this one area we won't be sounding very repetitive, because as a seed and pre-seed investor, scale itself has a different connotation, right? It's at the stage at which we invest in, which is often sometimes pre-revenue, sometimes even pre-product, sometimes early revenue. There are more existential issues that founders are dealing with, right? Attracting talent, building the first 15 people, various stuff like that, right? And so there are various elements of early scale, if I can call it, as opposed to geographic expansion or city expansion. Some of these getting talent organized, 0 to 1, right? The whole battle 0 to 1. In this, I think 3 learnings, evidence from watching our portfolio in the first and now the second fund. One is focus, right? Is to say, while Parag spoke of getting the unit economics of one city, right? Kind of similar, saying maybe do one thing, right? So if you have a sales marketing tech company, right, that is offering solutions for any industry segment, saying that, okay, can you get it right and build bells and whistles for one segment, right? So build it for HR tech companies and do everything really right for them, right? So that is one mantra that has worked well for some people in early scale. Second one is partnerships. As a very early stage company, you can't do everything on your own, right? And while there is this thing about, I want to own the customer in every situation, and a lot of our founders also say that I don't want to partner with a big company because they'll eat the customer. That's fine. In early scale, let the big partner eat that customer. You still have, let's say in your focus segment, two, three marquee customers. Let your partner take some of the big customers in some segment, because you learn, right? And maybe a year down the line, 2 years down the line, when you have scale capital, when Parag and his fund come in, you will have the resources to then go in and attack and take that client back from an Infosys or a TCS, right? A lot of our founders are very shy about partnering, and we push them in that direction. And thirdly, the third thing is just hustle. Early scale is about using every trick in your bag, right? If you know someone, don't be shy of using that tag. Just listening to Agnishwar and Garuda, right? He's not been shy of that. If he had said, if I use Dhoni, they'll say, I was with my friend, there's something. He was not shy. He just used every trick, right? I was just listening to you when he said, I don't need capital. I was reminded of Mia Bibi Razi, to kya karega Kazi. In his case, Dhoni, Modi, Razi, kya karega Kazi. Right? But hustle, right? Use every trick in your bag, and don't be shy of what the world will say. And so if your wife is a celebrity, go ahead and use it. Don't say, he had an unfair advantage. You have so many unfair disadvantages. Use all unfair advantages that you have.
Yeah, I'm going to focus on. We are also observing again, because our portfolio is young. Companies are still in the stage of 0 to 1. Maybe a couple of them breaking out of that stage. What I'm observing and learning constantly is, for a company to scale, first the founders have to scale themselves, right? And that is one of the it's one of the hardest things to do, right? Founders have great ideas when they start the company. They have one unique idea, one disruptive idea. They are great at building it to get their first 5 customers, 10, 50. And the point is, when you get to the next stage and the next stage and beyond, there's just so much more to do. It's not 10x harder, it becomes 100x harder. It's about building a company that has so many moving parts that are moving at breakneck speed, right? And expectations are high. While if you just look back a year ago, you will say we were 20 people and you're now 200 people or whatever. It's as hard as it gets in that stage, right? And money doesn't necessarily solve those problems. What solves those problems is the founder thinking, what does it take for me to be the CEO of the company, not just a co-founder? What does it take for me to be the leader? How can I then also along the way prepare by having other leaders in the organization? How can I delegate right? How can you absolutely prioritize on the most important things as the founder, right? And again, I'm borrowing this from what is general knowledge, but top 3 things is founder, set vision, communicate, hire great talent to execute that vision, and make sure you don't run out of money for that talent to execute on that vision. So effectively, founder's job, 3 top things, but it's very different running a $10 million company to $100 million company to $1 billion company. The founder has to do all of the above, right? So I think very, very important that, and then therefore the talent is very important. From the beginning, I cannot emphasize enough the quality of the team that you build. Your first 5, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people. If a fair chunk of those can be future leaders, that makes your life that much easier. Otherwise, you are the bottleneck as the founder for a very longer period of time, which is never going to. The other thing which we can learn from the West, a good thing is building great advisory boards, correct? Which is also very, very stage specific. You need different advisory board or different set of people giving you different set of advice to go to from 0 to 1, product market fit, right? Then for scaling, you need different advisory. So I think maybe as an ecosystem, we're getting there. There's a lot of maturity. There's a lot of people who can give that advice now, right? But I've seen it done much, much better in the West, and I think we have a lot to learn from there. We push our portfolio companies to do a lot, so I also urge all the entrepreneurs to think on that front. Build great advisory boards from the beginning, be generous with equity or whatever form of compensation, etc. for that. But they are the people who can solve those problems that you've never seen before in life.
Great. Let's take some questions from the audience now. We can take 3 questions in batches of 3. Yeah, just shout out your question.
Firstly, thank you so much for the time that you've spent here. Great insights, sir. My question is to Ravi, sir. I could sense.
Ravi is good. Please talk to sir. It makes me feel older than what I am. which is actually the other side that you may not realize.
No, they do that on purpose.
wait for the penny to drop.
No, you felt remorseful towards especially when it comes to startups these days focusing a lot on hardware plus services and such. And these are insights, the last 30 minutes. I think I've gained so much from all of you discussing. I understand that you all have to manage other people's funds and you have a lot of parameters that you will have to take into consideration before investing in startups. But have you not seen that your time is very valuable for many startups who are here in this room? I think more than the capital, your advice and the strategic guidance that you provide us could really help us not make mistakes. Rather than telling us what to do, you can tell us what not to do. And in return, you can get some sweat equity. So why hasn't that concept of advisory stake and sweat equity, which is there in US and other Western startup ecosystems, not transcended as much into the Indian VC circles?
Okay, hold on. Let's take the other question. Yeah, okay. You had a question? Yeah.
It's a 2-part question. Thank you so much for this insightful session. First is when you're about to make a decision, right? Imagining your decision matrix, what are the green lights and what are the red lights? When do you go ahead and when do you not go ahead? And what are some challenges you face as a VC fund or as an investor?
It's for all of them in general? Yeah. Who else? Arvind, who else had a question? Oh, wow. Yeah, go on.
So just some context, pre-revenue startup, whenever we guys come in front of you for pitching and we give a Excel to you with our financial projections, what do we put in those financial projections? Profitability or top line growth?
Okay, great. So
no, that is the easiest. I'll do that.
Okay,
if you can demonstrate unique economics, I think the rest of us will do the other piece. Right?
Let's have very quick answers because I should get to all the other questions also. So
no, but
yeah,
I think some of them are said. So I'll start with the third one. Unit economics. If you can demonstrate that you have figured this out in terms of where your costs are, how do you think your revenue stream is going to grow, and make sure that your revenue goes at a faster pace than your cost. I think the rest of it we can work through it.
I just had one comment. If you're a pre-revenue company and the VC investor is asking you for an Excel with 5-year projections, he is not the right VC investor. Stop that discussion.
Yeah, Ravi, the question was for you.
The first question was for